Hello, darling creatures. This is Louise. I wanted to talk about the Hanged Man. It's been on my mind for, well, on and off a couple of months. And it's been taking me a while to just start talking about this card because it connects with a lot of thoughts and writings and subjects, areas that I was focused on when I was into my more academic period of my adult life, and so it's been difficult for me to make this transition because I don't want to talk academic stuff. I don't want to try to vitalize academia. I left that behind, and so that's partly why it's been difficult for me to start talking about this, because it has to be done, and that's the difficult part. Thinking it is not so difficult for me, but doing it is difficult for everybody, I guess. So, the Hanged Man. The number 12 of the major arcana in tarot. Well, in French, le pendu, or as some say, the traitor. This card goes way back, and there seems to be like a more modern way of interpreting the card, and an older way of contributing meaning or sense to this image. So, well, if we start with the title, it just struck me today that this is the only major arcana card which is not like a noun. It's not like the man, or it's not like the emperor. I mean, the star, the lover, the sun, judgment, justice, is all nouns. But this particular card actually has a verb involved. Of course, in English and French you say le or the, so of course it's this one, but it's the hanged one. It's le pendu. Le pendu, pendu comes from pendre in French, which means to hang. So pendu is the what is that called in English? I don't remember that specific way of bending the verb. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. But this is important because this implies for me, at first at least, that this is about something being done to somebody. It's something being done to you. And it's not something you do, but it's being done. And that is really interesting. Or something happens to you. But in this case, I think it's quite difficult for just, unless you're Tarzan or something, that and making mistakes in the, swinging yourself around in the rainforest or something, then it's quite difficult to just all of a sudden be hanging upside down without somebody else being involved in this, or maybe doing it to yourself. That's also definitely possible, and that also opens up to really interesting meanings of this particular image. But let's just first of all focus on le pendu, on the hanged aspect. So this implies that something has or is being done to you or to somebody. When I just immediately look at this image, it tells me that, you know, he's on his own, or she is on her own. This person is on this person's own. But at the same time, I mean, for example, the Hermit is as well. So for me, this card differs from the Hermit in the way that Le Pendu is on her own amongst people. The Hermit is on her own, away from people in a way. It's really like going into the woods, you know, or hiding in your apartment for a week or something like. But this is happening in public in a way. This has to do with other people, or yourself, of course. There's a possibility that you yourself made those branches and cut them and everything and planned it, but it still is quite difficult to do this, you know, to hang yourself like this. So so it implies other people. And I'm just looking at the camera because the battery is apparently not very full, but we'll go on. So it's in a way being on your own amongst people. And it's about seeing, but also being seen. It's about looking out or watching, but also being looked at. And in that sense, it also has to do with exposure, being exposed, exposé in French. So ex means something out, something going out, outwards, and posé or poner in Old French is like either placing something or laying out, or what was it? I was looking at it. To also explain or to lay open, and in a way also speak one's mind. But basically, actually, it is, and I'm looking at the online etymology dictionary, and it says it comes from the early 15th century, expose, to leave without shelter or defense. And that is interesting, isn't it? Because this person is really hanging there and just, I mean, you could throw tomatoes at her or him and he wouldn't really be able to defend himself or herself. And I mean, also in some cards, you actually see this little, look at this genitals. Like, I mean, why was this area not painted? I mean, that's a really vulnerable area not to paint. I mean, poor guy or woman, you know. So this indicates like vulnerability and again exposure. And so, well, how should I put it? The modern interpretations of this is that you can gain like that you can gain a changed perspective, or that you should try to change your perspectives and see things upside down and see things differently, etc. And that also really makes sense, I think. I mean, it's like, turning the world upside down. But what's really interesting to me is that this happens in public. You know, this has to do with how you are seen by other people and how that affects you, and what forces are then at stake here in such a situation. You know, in a spiritual way, you can say that okay, this is like a prayer. You know, this is like calling upon that which you don't know what is, like God, some would say, or calling upon your own soul, or calling upon the Saviour that you don't know who is, but you hope will be there, you know. But also praying for, in a way, your life, because if you keep hanging there, you will die. So there's also a certain degree of necessity involved in this card. And it has to do with it's pointing towards an inner sense of agency and not an outer sense, because you cannot act, you cannot act amongst people in this case. And this is what sort of the card before, which to me is force or strength, fortitude. Number 11. This is what force was about. This is like lighting up that fire inside of you, which is maybe about will or but also like knowing that you have the power in a gentle way. It's like you have the chariot, and then you have I'm just rambling here, okay? You have the chariot, which is like an outer will and going forward, etc. And then you go to force, which is much more like, okay, you need gentleness with yourself, and you need to forgive, or you need to wait for this force to show itself, but you also have to deal with yourself in a compassionate way, It takes time to learn this animal, not to bite you, but to sort of gently show it how not to do it. And then you come to the Hanged Man, and he is or she is now experiencing the consequences of what it means to stand up for yourself. And you don't know always why you do as you do. You just know that this must be done. And that is not necessarily always an easy thing when it comes to how other people look at you. Because other people might misunderstand you, other people might hate you for doing it, other people might point you out or single you out. Do you say that? Single you out? Like ridicule you or point the fingers at you, etc. And so that leads to feelings of being misunderstood, etc., or feeling that somebody else was a traitor towards you, somebody else was not faithful to you. And all those feelings, or all those kinds of situations that might happen in relation to the public, the public eye, is worth going into, and explore further on, I think, in this card. Because you don't have outer agency. You do not decide what people think about you. And here is, you've done what you had to do. You've sort of stood up for yourself. You've done things that might be exposed or might not be exposed. Certain things might be exposed and judged, and then there is also a whole lot of other things around the situation that might not be exposed, but might not be seen, and that you might not want people to see either. Not because they are bad, but maybe because, and that's the really, that's like a virtue, I think, in this card, because sometimes you do things that you feel you must do, and you don't tell about it. You don't say anything about it, because that would seem like would-be bragging, So hold on for a minute. What does that take, to be able to hold your own, your integrity, and to hold it and hold it and hold it, no matter what the consequence is. Sorry. So, I'm back. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, it's like you're defenseless and you're like, no, it's not like that, or no, I didn't do it, or but you haven't seen that I've also done this and that, and so on. Yeah, maybe you just need to stay quiet. Maybe that's one of the lessons of this card. Maybe you simply need to let the world pass in front of your eyes and reflect or reflect upon what you did, or feel that there was a necessity about what you had to do, or feel regret, whatever. It's this inner space that is activated by the look of the public, by the look of other people. It's the situations that call upon you to start that in a prayer, so to say. And I'm not meaning this in a religious or spiritual way necessarily. It's really like holding it, standing it, and also doubting. I mean, that's part of it, isn't it? I was reading in my academic life or lifetime, I was reading French philosophy and Derrida, Jacques Derrida, amongst other, and he wrote one. Gilles Deleuze also had a really nice approach to the story of Abraham and Isaac. And this story is very close to my heart. I'm not Christian, I'm not religious, but the way that those guys, those French philosophers, laid out this story, this biblical story, has made such a big impression on me, and I'm going to make another video one day about that specifically, I think, because that takes a longer time, you know, but it really is about having to respond to a call from something that you cannot see, but that you feel you must respond to. And you could call that God, you know, but you could also call it soul or integrity or intuition or whatever, you know. It's this really interesting process or action really, that makes you do something that you might not really understand yourself, but you feel it's really necessary. That sounds really mysterious, doesn't it? But to me, it's also very, very real. It's something that you sometimes must do in your life, isn't it? And you don't know what will happen. You don't know the end, so to say. You don't know the scenarios that will come in the aftermath. You don't know. And you don't know how you will be judged. And that is part of becoming an individual. And what those philosophers also point out, so to say, is that this always has to do with something or somebody else in real life. Like, you do something against somebody or you do something for somebody. It's always about, you know, choosing to do something for the other person or for the other as such, and thereby neglecting all the others in your life. Doing something for a single person might go against what the whole of society thinks you should do, you know. So this is also very much about being conform or not, being going against conformity, going against what is normal, going against what is readable or readable. So yeah, but I think that's what I'm going to stop this video and then continue in another one, going deeper into the French philosophical text about Abraham and Isaac someday. Hope you enjoyed it, and take care, and ciao.